Good afternoon, everybody. In the absence of a chair for this committee at the present moment, I will call the meeting to order. We have quorum and it's just past 4:30. I would open the floor for a nomination for a chair for the term ending November 30th, 2018. Councillor Squire?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor Van Holst.
And is there a seconder for that nomination?
Is there other nominations?
I'll get to that. Okay, and are there any further nominations?
I'll nominate Cheryl Ruth. Should she agree?
And is there a seconder for that nomination? Councillor Park? Sorry, any further nominations? So we don't generally use a ranked ballot at this committee. I'm not.
There's only one.
There's a nomination for Councillor Van Holst and a nomination for for Ms. Ruth. So we had that one on the floor first, so we'll go with that one as a vote first. I'll call the question on the nomination of Councillor Van Holst for chair. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that motion is lost, so I'll call the question on the second nomination, which was for Ms. Ruth. All in favor? Opposed, if any? And that one carries, so I'll turn the chair over to Ms. Ruth and we'll go through the selection of a vice chair, please.
Okay, do we have a nominator for vice chair? Councillor Helmer?
I'd like to nominate Councillor Van Holst.
Do we have a seconder for that?
I'll second that.
Okay. Councillor Heber? Any further nominations? Okay. Okay, then we'll call the vote for Councillor Van Holst for vice chair. All in favor? Okay, moving on to disclosures of pecuniary interest. Are there any? No? Okay. Moving on to item agenda number 3, schedule items with the delegation of Ms. Ramsey, project manager. Go ahead.
All right, through the chair, thank you for having me back tonight. I'm going to spend my time tonight going through a very brief update on our consultation efforts, and then give you some input on what to expect for the upcoming public information centers that are starting on December 9th, this Saturday. So just a quick overview of the study process, again, ongoing consultation, what to expect for PIC5, and then other ways that people will be able to contribute over the coming weeks. So here's our table again with that, with our process in terms of our pre-planning and consultation stage, and then our formal TPAP. So our green arrow keeps moving along the line there, and we're now at the point where we've developed our concepts and design options for the various corridors, and we're ready to bring that forward to the public. So we've been through this time also working to get public feedback from both public and our stakeholder groups, as well as individual project meetings of stakeholders and businesses. So we've been able to use that input to help shape the design concepts that we'll be presenting at our Public Information Center. In the past 4 months, the BRT project team has held over 350 hours of consultation meetings, stakeholder sessions, and public workshops. This opportunity for in-depth discussion has helped us to shape the design concepts that we'll be bringing forward to Londoners at our Public Information Centers starting on Saturday. We had our public workshop on stops and streetscapes on November 15th. We had a really great turnout with almost 100 attendees signed in. The focus of that meeting was to obtain public input on our BRT stop features and amenities, some opportunities for heritage integration, and also talk about streetscape design. So we had some really great input from that meeting, and then we'll be using that as we go forward to develop some of those concepts for what our BRT stops will look like. So here's just some examples of the types of information we talked about. We asked the public, what's important to you? Do you want fully protected shelters, only partially? Do you want accessible designs? Real-time information seemed to be something that a lot of people said that they were looking for, as well as wayfinding at those stations. And we have an ongoing survey that we've sort of been running a tally on in terms of what are the features and amenities that people would like to see at those stops going forward. We also held our Stakeholder Week Part 2, where again, we brought together those core stakeholder groups that we identified through our communications plan. So our community stakeholder group, the emergency services folks, our technical agencies group, as well as our municipal advisory group. And what we basically did with those groups was walk through our design options for the 9 key areas that we'll be presenting at the Public Information Center. And what that gave us was a bit of a dry run to be able to flag the types of comments and questions that we can anticipate at the Public Information Centers to help us to refine the materials that we're going to be presenting next week. So we had a really good amount of feedback from a wide variety of perspectives that we collected through those various groups. So we were really happy with the discussions and the response, and it helped us to really shape the materials for next week. So in addition to those 4 stakeholder groups, we've had over 40 individual meetings with different businesses, academic institutions, individual members of the public that have come in and actually visited our office. We've been reaching out to First Nations communities and also from some of the student councils at Western, and we're reaching out to Fanshawe as well. And so we're really kind of trying to, again, reach out to as many people as possible during this option, especially some of those business stakeholders, so they can feel that they've had that one-on-one discussion about their needs with the project team. And of course, we always have ongoing calls and emails that we're working to respond through our shift office. So moving forward, our Public Information Center, we've got 7 sessions scheduled for the course of the next week. So we're kicking things off on Saturday at the Central Library with a morning session and an afternoon session. And then we'll be moving around the city to be able to provide different times and options for the public to be able to come out and visit us and look at the project team. So on Tuesday, we'll be in the east at Aeolian Hall. On Wednesday, we'll be in the north at Ivy Spencer Leadership Center and west at Oak Ridge Heights Secondary School. And then on Thursday, we'll be in the south at the 4 Points Sheridan. And we're also doing another presentation at the library that afternoon. So I wanted to stress the fact that the information we're presenting at each of those 7 sessions is the same. It's identical no matter where you go. So even if you live in the south and weren't able to make that session, you could come and visit us at the library or at one of the north sessions, and we'll have all the information for you able to comment on the key areas that are most important to individuals. We've been really trying to promote the PIC number 5 because it's important that we get as many Londoners out as we can. So we've had promotions on print and radio advertisements. We had a citywide public notice that went out by addressed mail to all properties within 100 meters of the BRT corridor. And then on top of that, we did a full citywide bulk mailing to make sure that everyone got that. That went to not only property owners, but also renters within apartment units. We had an additional, I think, 7,300 copies that went out to businesses just to make sure that everybody got a chance to see what was going on and know when those dates are to be able to come out. We've been approaching businesses individually, as I mentioned, to kind of make them aware and encourage them to come out as well, and as well as their employees. We've got mobile signage along parks at key locations in the city, social media, we're on the City of London e-newsletter, we've had email blasts, and we've also had quite a bit of media coverage, and with more to come in the coming days. So London's bus rapid transit system, it's for all Londoners, and this citywide transformation is being planned through a community collaboration. So we want to talk to all Londoners. What the system will look like, including the stations, the streetscape, corridors, matter to everyone: transit users, drivers, cyclists, and pedestrian. And so this is the public's chance to contribute their thoughts and help to shape our future transportation network. We want to stress that the public's input really matters to us. Consultation to date has already influenced the concepts that we'll be bringing forward at the PICs. And starting this week, we'll also have the addition, the consultation we've had so far up to this point and into those designs that we'll be showing. You can see there's areas where we've added stops based on feedback that we've heard. We've made adjustments to access points to deal with business needs. So we want the public to realize that their input matters, and it will have an influence on the design going forward. We'll be presenting 9 key focus areas. In some cases, the focus areas will present design options, and the public will have the opportunity to provide feedback on those options. In other areas of the corridor, we've identified one technically viable concept, and so the information that the PIC will essentially summarize that design concept, and the public will be able to ask questions and provide feedback on potential concept refinements. Each of our 7 PICs, as I mentioned, will have the same information available in varying formats. The key focus areas that will be provided on our display boards and the large print boards around the room will be tailored for each section or each meeting to reflect the key concept areas that would be of most interest to that location. But the balance, all of 9 of the focus areas will be available to be viewed in both digital and hard copy formats. So again, even if you're coming to the east, you can ask questions about the west or the north or the south. Each of our different concepts will be providing some benefits and impacts from various different perspectives, and again, asking for the public's feedback and their thoughts on this. So we'll be talking about property impacts, tree impacts, cultural and built heritage, traffic impacts and benefits, and also some of the operational impacts and benefits. The format for our session is a 3-hour session that starts with the first hour being an open house format, and then we'll offer a short presentation followed by a facilitated question period, and then we'll reopen it back up to an open house format to allow people to continue and mingle and ask any follow-up questions. There's lots of ways for people to be able to contribute and comment on the different options. We'll be having all of this information available. All of our boards and slide decks will be on the Shift website. We'll also do a video recording of the presentation and put that on our website. So again, if people aren't able to make it out to one of these 7 PICs, they can review all the information online. They can also visit us at our office. They can request an individual meeting with RTO, Rapid Transit Implementation Office staff, or email and call us with their questions. And in addition to that, we've also scheduled 2 encore presentations of the same material for January 24th. And what we're going to be doing there is it's another opportunity for people to come out. We understand that this is a lot of information, and we want the public and Londoners to be able to absorb it, digest it, and we anticipate there'll be follow-up questions. So this is another opportunity for people to come out and say, I'd like to see this again, I'd like to ask this question. And also, if you didn't have a chance to hit one of the 7 sessions in December, this is just one more chance to be able to come out and see that same information. So that's all I have for today. I'm happy to answer any questions about what's going to be happening over the next week with our PICs, and I'll hand it back to the chair.
Thank you very much. Before we go any further, I'm going to take questions from anyone who wants to. I think because this is a working group, I really don't feel the need to have it go through the chair. Any of your comments, unless someone has a problem with that, I don't think it's necessary to bring everything through the chair. Are we good with that? Does anyone have a problem?
Chair. I think that's an excellent idea. I just recommend you reserve your right to ask things to go through the chair, just in case. This is...
With that caveat, I will make that. So I will start to take questions. We'll start from the left. Councillor Squire.
Thank you very much. First of all, I want to say thank you for, in my opinion, changing the way you're doing public consultation. Particularly, one of the things that my constituents always want is that opportunity to publicly ask questions and have them answered publicly at a meeting, and they will appreciate that opportunity very much. So I want to thank you for that. I also have to comment on the last sessions. My constituents, certainly that I worked with at those two, did not like the format of those sessions where there wasn't a public question and answer period. So I thank you for that, for changing this time. So my question to you is, are you also prepared during this time period up till you do the second encore presentation to work with councillors such as myself who have a corridor going right through our ward to have a councillor facilitated discussion? Because of course we're in our wards, we know the various community associations, we know people are interested, and we also know that often people don't get this information and show up. So are you prepared to do those kind of things also?
Absolutely. I think that any opportunity we can get to come out to the public and meet with them, that's actually one of my most gratifying parts of this job, is getting out to come out and talk to people and help them understand and answer their questions. So any opportunity that is out there, our office is happy to facilitate.
And my follow-up is, I'm just wondering when the decision-making on this next process, the routes, et cetera, when do you anticipate that coming to either SPPC or council?
Our project table and that study process that we had mapped out, so the spring, we're looking for March of 2018 is when we'd like to be able to bring forward our preliminary engineering design, along with all the supporting information to how we evaluated and came up with that preferred design, and then that'll be in the form of that draft environmental project report coming back to council.
Thank you very much. I appreciate the directness of your answers and the brevity also.
Any further questions on the left? Any questions, Councillor Park?
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Ramsey talked about some engagement that's been happening with local businesses. I just wonder if you could tell me a little bit more about the one-on-one conversations and about how many have been had by staff at this point.
I mean, we've had ongoing individual meetings, so we've just recently been back out to see Budweiser Gardens, the Covent Garden Market, multiple along the way. We've got more scheduled in the coming weeks and into early January. So we're trying to hit some of those key stakeholders that we've been out to see before, touch base with them on the current design, and then have another opportunity to say what are their business needs and how can that potentially be accommodated, or how can our design mitigate around some of those needs. We're also looking and working together with Downtown London to try to reach out potentially in groupings of business owners to be able to kind of, again, have those discussions and get some feedback.
Thank you very much for that. And I know that a lot of the businesses really appreciate that one-on-one conversation piece because they have a lot of information to share in terms of where do they access, where do goods and services come into their building and those sorts of things. So I really appreciate the turnaround and work. Thank you.
Hit the wrong button. Your worship.
Thank you very much. Just to build off those questions, I know you mentioned 350 hours of meetings to date, many of them one-on-one. And again, I think that's critical that we reach out to individual business owners, and I know that you do as well because you've demonstrated that. As we look forward to the next period of consultation, I think we've got about 22 hours of consultation in this round. And then is there an additional total number of hours that you can tell us that will occur on January 24th or 25th, or is that 22 hours inclusive of those dates?
I haven't done the math again. I have to go through it. I think that the two additional 3-hour sessions are on top of the 22 hours in the fall.
That's my math too, and I think that you need to be complimented for that as well. This is a very extensive consultation process that really meets people in their neighborhoods. The message is going to be consistent throughout, and what I really like about it is that you present the information at a number of these sessions. I believe it's 6 in the first week, and then people have time to think about that information, to talk about that information, to talk about it maybe over the holidays, over the holiday table, and then to come back if they choose to have a second chance to discuss this. So from my perspective, you've heard us loud and clear. We said there needed to be greater consultation, more calculated, more specific consultation, and from my perspective, with the one-on-one meetings that Councillor Park referred to, and with this this new segment of consultation sessions, you're doing exactly that. Thank you.
Commissioner Shepherd.
You mentioned that one of the opportunities for input was at Rapid Transit implementation headquarters, and I think that's maybe an item or an aspect of the project that's maybe not very well known for the public. So I'd like you please just to explain what that is and where it is, and clarify your invitation for drop-ins.
Yeah, we're currently located in an interim headquarters that's at the Central Library. So you can find us just off of the main doors from Dundas. We're basically right across the hall from the CBC office. And so we're very accessible, and we make sure we've got people there during regular business hours. You can call us at our line as well and make an appointment if you want to come by and see us. And yep, you can come see the inner workings of our group.
Any further questions? Councillor Van Holst.
Thank you very much. Great work, and I'm interested to know how many subscribers we have now to the e-blasts, and maybe you could let us know for anybody listening at home who might be interested in subscribing, how they might do that.
So everyone that contacts us, either through a sign-in sheet or emails the shift@london.ca email account, is when we respond to them, we let them know that we've automatically added them to that subscriber list. And I'll just check in with our communication staff, and I can get you some updated stats in a moment about how many people are on our email blast, what kind of impressions we've been getting on social media, and those sorts of things. So Ms. James tells me that we have 2,200 approximately subscribers on our email blast.
Congratulations, thank you.
Councillor Helmer?
I wanted to say in particular, I think a lot of the things we're doing to promote the public meetings are very helpful, but directly mailing notices to everybody, including people who are living in apartment buildings, I think is very smart. You know, this is something that obviously a lot of people are interested in. I think reaching out in a wide way like that to say, look, here's the different ways you can be involved. It doesn't matter if you own your own home or if you live in this part of the city or that part of the city, that everybody's going to get notified of just the basics of what's happening. They can find out the website, and if they want to go and learn more, they can. I think that was a really important step. I'm really glad that we have done that.
Any further questions? Okay, I have a mover and a seconder to note and file, please. Mayor Brown and a seconder. Commissioner Southern. All in favor? Thank you. Okay, moving on to item number 5, items for discussion. I'd just like to say I didn't mean to hijack this agenda. I just had a bunch of questions that I wanted answered. So for number 5, discussion of Richmond Street options and giving potential recommendations or preferred options to the SHIFT team. Is this something that you're looking for from this working group?
I think that at this point, we've come forward with information for Richmond North that shows all the 4 options, has drawn those out, and hasn't identified a preferred, because we'd really like to bring that information to the public and get their feedback. So I think at this point, we've put all the information out there, and I think we need to give the public a chance to kind of tell them what they're thinking, and then maybe we can bring that back to a future meeting.
Thank you, that's very helpful. That's all I was really looking for. Please forgive me, I missed item number 4. I just need a note and file for that, Jesse. Councillor Hubert, all in favor? Thank you very much. Moving on to item number 6, a mandate review of the Rapid Transit Implementation Working Group. So what I was looking for here is, we've been at this a year now with this group of people. Are there things that you're looking for to change, expectations that you have of us? Are there things that you're looking for in terms of input or any kind of guidance that we can provide?
Well, I think that I would actually look to the working group for some advice. I know that our last few meetings have taken a format where I've provided more of an update on the work that we've been doing, or maybe trying to use this as a forum to be able to share information like we did last month with the Richmond North options and getting that out there. I know we take advantage of the fact that these meetings are recorded and live streamed on YouTube as an option to kind of encourage people to tune in and watch from home. So I think that's sort of the approach we've been taking, but we're definitely open to looking at other ways to make sure this is a working group.
Okay, thank you. Did anyone have a comment on that, or any questions or on that? Councillor Park?
Thank you. Recognizing that staff have done a lot of work in the engagement portion of it, I wonder to the rest of the working group what the thought is on having the public engage with us here. Because as council, we'll have opportunities to hear from the public in this gallery, but as the working group, we would not. There's obviously some exercises of governance that we'd have to do on the council side to make sure that we could open this up to delegations and that sort of thing. But to have face-to-face input from folks that maybe couldn't make it to a PIC, or they want to make sure that we as a group hear the information. So I'll put that question out if the group's wanting to have public participation at the working group.
Does anyone want to follow on that? Councillor Hubert?
Yeah, it really does speak to what the role is here, and I'm not sure, given all the outreach that is happening, I think this is a really good venue for reporting out on that and sort of the distillation of that and the, you know, pulling it together. I'm not sure I see us having a public, like kind of a public participation meeting after all of this. This is very broad and also very specific. So the individual consultation that's happening, and to ask those people to come and do it all over again. Maybe when we, I don't know, maybe when we get down to, okay, here's where we're going, that might be an idea. But certainly I'd want to see the distillation of all of that input into one report, or else we're diverging, not converging. At some point, there's got to be a convergence of information. And I see that this is the convergence point. That's just my view on it, so.
Commissioner Shepherd.
I would agree with Councillor Hubert that I would prefer to see the public input continue to be directed through staff. They're the experts. They're the ones who are going to have an immediate answer for most of that input. And we already know how difficult it is to get people to show up and have the time and to participate in public input sessions. I would prefer to not distract from those. That's my personal view. I am glad, though, that we are having a discussion of mandate. It's been a long time since we've looked at it, and I honestly, I don't think I've looked at it since our second meeting. So, and I did not bother to dig it up before today's meeting, I'll admit. So, I would appreciate an opportunity to maybe discuss it again after, maybe on the next agenda. So we've had a time to think about it, and staff have had a chance to think about what they might get out of it more, and we can think the same types of things, and that a revisit might be worthwhile.
Mayor Brown.
Just quickly, Chair, I think that I do appreciate that, 350 hours of consultation has occurred in the last round, and there's 22 ahead of us and then another 6 after that. What I would prefer is to have the totality of that information distilled and organized and reported into this committee so we can get a good broad perspective of the community wide opinions. One of the things that I think that we have to recognize with regard to this committee is that really it's a subcommittee of a subcommittee of a committee. If we think about how this feeds up into council, and each aspect has a role to play. One of the most important roles that I think is occurring here is that we have commissioners from the LTC and members of council working together on this project. We have members from the administration of the LTC and members from the City of London administration working together on this project. And I think that's powerful. I think that that was a really positive step forward when this committee was struck. One of the concerns that I have about the mandate of this committee, I'd be very happy to explore it at a future meeting, is just how much staff time is required, both from the LTC and from the City of London. And I'd like that to be included in the discussion if we have that moving forward. Because what I don't want to have happen is one of those situations where over-analysis leads to paralysis. Staff have so much time and a great deal to do. And I want to make sure that this committee is being helpful in guiding that work. And at this point, the way the agendas have gone, the way the reporting out has gone, I think we're hitting that mark. But I want to check in with staff next meeting if this comes up to get a sense of workload as well.
I'm glad Mayor Brown, I agree with pretty much everything he said. I think we have to remember, first of all, that I'm on the Town and Gown also committee, and although it can make recommendations to other committees, the decision-making body and the body that my constituents look to are the elected officials they voted for. And that's a huge responsibility, and particularly for me, let's not make any bones about it here. I'm in an area that has a corridor going right through it, and people, I'm sure you've noticed, in my area have very strong opinions on this. So I even have difficulty with the concept that I'm going to make a vote here on my position on this anything until I've had the chance to hear from my constituents in the way that I think fit, in the best manner. And that's my responsibility as an elected official. And with all due respect to people, if you're not an elected official, it's different. It is, because I have to answer to a specific constituency. So what I like here, and I think other people express it, is getting the information. What I do with this information when it comes to me is I immediately get it out to my constituents so they can see it on an ongoing basis and they are fully informed. So that when I go on to the next steps, which the ultimate decision maker is council, they're ready to go and I'm fully informed my constituents. So I really would like to see this remain a working group, what it was. I think that can be unsatisfying at times because it's not a committee of council, standing committee of council or council. But I'm going to certainly fight to maintain that. And probably my votes will come at SPPC and council, where my constituents want me to make my votes, not at this committee. And so I want to be really clear on that.
Councillor Van Holst?
Thank you very much. I think that Councillor Park is addressing the issue that people would like to have a chance to speak to the decision makers directly, and rather than just through staff at the various PICs. So maybe the place for this type of public participation meeting would be the SPPC, because that's where ultimately the decisions of this committee would be ratified and reconsidered. And so maybe that would be the time to do that. And again, be great to see it once all the information is here and we've got all the facts at our disposal.
Do we have any further comments, or Councillor Helmer?
Thank you, and I'm glad that you brought up the issue. I do think that we probably should broaden out a bit from just talking about updates as we're going through the implementation of our rapid transit plan. I think what would be helpful is if we could get in some staff from municipalities and transit systems that have already implemented rapid transit or are implementing rapid transit to ask them questions about how is that going, what kind of results have you seen? I think we can learn from the experience of other municipalities. I also think I would like to get some staff in from the Canadian Urban Transit Innovation Consortium, CUTRIC. They're the ones who do the electric bus modeling. Electric buses is just hanging there as a thing that we're considering. And I think getting those people in front of us so we could talk to them about, well, what's involved here? Like, what's going on? I think those are things that we should be bringing into the committee so we can have that discussion at the working group level. I think it helps surface some information that might be useful for people who are interested in this project. It gets it out there a bit earlier. And frankly saves people from having to go chase it down by going and looking at the meetings from other municipalities and the reports from other municipalities. And I don't want to go overboard and have a ton of that, but I think having some of that would be helpful. I've drafted up a motion just now along those lines to say, can we have our staff just be requested to invite some people from municipalities and transit systems that have implemented rapid transit to see if they want to come and speak to us about that. And also a piece around staff from CUTRIC. I don't know if there's support from the rest of the working group if you're interested in that, but I am. I think it would be helpful.
Any further comments? Councillor Van Holst, sorry.
Thank you very much. I agree with Councillor Hammer. I think those things would be helpful. Nice to be able to model somebody who's done it before. And I guess I'll also bring up just the idea of the modeling, so that I would like to be able to see that sort of in action when we get technologies that we're using, to be able to be introduced to those and just see how they work. I think that might be interesting to have happen here too.
Okay, any further comments? Okay, so do we have a second, or Jesse, do you want to, oh, sorry, Eric, go ahead. Or your second? Can we hear your motion, please, Councillor Helmer?
I'm just realizing you can't see it on the screen, so let me just read it out. Did you clerk it?
No.
Okay. So it says civic administration be requested to invite staff from one or more transit systems and or municipalities that have implemented rapid transit to speak to the working group. And then the second part is civic administration be requested to invite staff from Q-Trek to speak to the working group about electric buses. And obviously, I'm interested in what our staff think about that idea too.
Just with respect to the Q-Trick, just maybe a little bit more clarification. We're already working with Q-Trick to model our routes and the different options associated with electric, and we were planning to bring that back already. Your motion says specific just about electric buses. Are you talking about the technology as a whole, or do you want just a specific presentation on electric buses?
So it sounds like we're already doing what I'd like to see happen, so why don't we drop that part? If they're already gonna come to the working group and talk about that, that's basically what I would like them to do, so that's great.
Okay, so we've revised that? Okay, just before we go to that motion, I just want to circle back to Councillor Parks. Was there any other interest in doing a PIC? No? Okay. And to Councillor Hubert's, Mayor's suggestion of adding it to the next agenda, do we want to talk about this further in January? No? Okay, so then let's move to Councillor Helmer's motion. And Eric, you seconded that. All in favor? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item number 7. As I said, we have been at this for a year and schedules change. We have different commitments, and I just wanted to know if anyone was considering or needing a change of day or time of our meetings. So what I would like to ask is that the clerk send out an email to all of us, see what the general consensus is, and then we'll go from there in January. Is everyone in agreement with that? That's good, okay. Someone will call Councillor Hubert and let him know what time the meeting is. Okay, item number 6, deferred matters or additional business. Does anyone have anything to add? No? Okay. On that note, I would like to take a moment to thank Mr. Ford, who is retiring from the LTC on the 15th. I had the pleasure of doing this once. I'm going to do it a little better this time. This is his last rapid transit implementation working group with us. You've been with LTC for 27 years. Is that right? Little over 27 years. And we thank you so much for your service to the city and for getting millions and millions of people around. And we hope you have a wonderful retirement and come back and visit once in a while. Did you have anything you'd like to say? You're good? Okay. I just need to move on to seconder for adjournment, please. I'm sorry, Phil, go ahead.
Some of you may remember I used to be chair of this committee, and I just want to thank staff for all the work that you did supporting me, and I really do appreciate that. As you know, this is a passionate issue in my ward, which creates its own challenges. And one of the reasons, obviously, I don't feel I can any longer continue as chair when I'm going to be presenting passionate positions. But I appreciate the way you've assisted me in that. I know that even today I was asking staff about setting up some additional meetings and we even got that started before the meeting. So I really want to thank staff for the support you gave me during the term I was doing this and being flexible in terms of when we would meet.
Councillor Squire, I apologize. I should have given you a moment to speak. It didn't even occur to me. Okay, I'll move on to seconder for adjournment, please. Councillor Van Holst and Councillor Helmer, all in favor? Thank you very much. We'll see you again in January. We'll send out an email. Thank you. Oh yes, and definitely at the PICs. Pick one, anyone. They'll all be fantastic.